This week, Madison Sperry talks about her decision to become a canine officer.
And I was like, I need to tell you something. And like when you tell like your parents that, because like I said, I mean, I consider her, like one of my parents. It's like one of those, you feel like you're about to tell them you're pregnant or something. Like I need to I need to tell you something.
I never
And
had that discussion with my parents. I'm sorry. Mom, I'm pregnant.
So she stops what she was doing and she looks over at me like this serious face. And she's like, I already know. And I'm like, uh, I want to go. I want to become a police officer, and I want to do canine. And she just, she smiled, and she said, I kind of figured, that was happening. She was, I mean, she was really sad. Um, and she's like, she tried to talk me into staying. She's like, I'll get you another dog. You can train dogs here. You can have as many dogs as you want here. Just don't leave. I mean, she was trying to do anything and everything to keep me at the ranch. And I just, like I said, I felt like my wings needed to expand.
Welcome to Game of Crimes. Welcome back, amigos, players, playerettes, dudes, dudettes, everything in between. Welcome back to Game of Crimes. I am the host with the most hair, the most good looks. I am Morgan Wright, and I'm here literally with my partner in crime.
Hey, this is Murph, everybody, and we typically refer to Morgan as the pain in the ass, but you know that already, right?
PETA.
There you go. That's a new name for you.
PETA. Well, you know what? It's like the other one, too. There's People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, unless you're from the Midwest, and it's called People Eating Tasty Animals. So depends on your definition of PETA.
All right.
Guys.
We're probably going to get some comments over that one, by the way.
Oh, what? Hey, hate me. Send us hate mail. That's the only kind of mail we get lately. No, we've actually had some good comments. Speaking of good comments, we'll get into those in just a minute. So my script says, okay, enough of the small talk. Okay, we're over now into housekeeping. So got to follow the script, Murph. So anyway, but head on over to that Apple and Spotify. Hit those 5 stars. Let us know what you think of the show. And guys, it really does. It helps us out. We have some interesting things coming up. We had a discussion about a new direction we may be taking, not with the show, but kind of some things we do with the show. And those reviews and everything really help us with those kinds of discussions. So please keep those coming. Also, head on over to our website, gameofcrimespodcast.com. One of our guests coming up, we had him recorded. It's somebody we met at the Southern California Game Conference. This was a great episode. This dude has 6 books out. And we're going to talk. This is going to be a good one. Just trust me. This is going to be good.
Oh, it's going. I'm already predicting it'll be one of the highest listened to episodes that we do.
Yes.
Good stuff.
And especially if you're listening to it in a plane, it'll be a very highly listened to podcast.
Oh gosh, bump.
Thank you. Anyway, and we're actually revising our merch list, so we're going to pare it down. There's a lot of stuff on there. We're going to pare it down, and we're going to just put in some new stuff there. So check that out. Also, follow us on social media at Game of Crimes on the Twitter, at Game of Crimes Podcast on Facebook and the Instagram. But Murph, where do you got to be? Where do you got to be? I ask you once again, where do you got to be?
Well, you've got to get over to Patreon because, man, the content that's coming out there, I think we have more on Patreon than we have on our regular podcast or weekly podcast now. And it's things where we kind of get more into our personal opinions on certain topics, but, we try to bring timely what's going on in the news, things there to your attention. Just a lot of the things we have fun with. The 911, you can't make this shit up. It's just crazy what's going on there. Case of the month, good stuff.
But we got a good one coming up because I just am almost finishing, now that we have them all in the can, finishing up the first episode of The Real DEA Narcos, talking about The Real DEA Narcos Cali edition.
Mm-hmm.
We've already, and guys, by the way, by the time when this comes out, you will see starting in July, we've changed the description on our Patreon page. So the levels all remain the same. What you get remains the same because we always added bonus content. All we're saying now is that when this new one comes out, this was a lot of effort. You're going to have to be at the Guardian of the Realm or Warden of the Throne level to get access to the Cali Cartel version of The Real DEA Narcos. But trust me, it's going to be worth it. Believe me. Believe me now. Hear me later. It will be worth it.
I promise you, it's. I've never heard anything this in depth I mean, even Narcos, they only had one season on the Cali Cartel. We're doing 16 hours of interviews with Chris Feistel and Dave Mitchell. That's the guys that brought down the Cali Cartel. There's nobody knows more about it than those two gentlemen.
And I'm telling you right now, episode 12 will go down in history. We're waiting. You're going to have to hang in there to get to episode 12. But enough said about that. So, but guys, seriously, head on over there, patreon.com/gameofcrimes, patreon.com/gameofcrimes. Join with us today and become one of the players in the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, the Patreon version of Game of Crimes. Hey, also head on over to paypal.me/gameofcrimes or email us at paypal.com. Just use our email, gameofcrimespodcast@gmail.com, whatever it makes it easier for you to support the show. But a quick disclaimer: this is a show about crime. We talk about bad people doing bad things and bad people, really bad people, doing bad things to good people. We do take the story seriously, but
we do not take ourselves serious. That's why we're going to have some fun. You're going to hear Morgan and I picking on each other, and it's all in good fun. So hang in there with us.
And speaking of hanging in there with us to have good fun, Murph, it brings me up to that point. Guess what time it is?
It's time for
Small Town Police Blotter. Yay! Oh, and I'm telling you, this one, there's some stories here. I actually was going to put one in from You Can't Make This Shit Up, but I'm saving it for our Patreon version of You Can't Make This Shit Up, because I'm telling you, you just can't. But anyway, Steve, did you know that on 10:36 a.m. on Monday? Now, Steve, during your time, working DA and stuff, you probably came across counterfeit money, right?
Occasionally, not very often though, believe it or not.
No, but what's one of the most counterfeited, bills?
$100 bills.
Yeah. Well, guess what? A lady at 608 North Spurgeon, she found $1 million bill and would like confirmation if it is real.
Oh, of course, go spend that puppy. Go deposit it right now in the bank. $1 million bill.
$1 million bill. No, but I'll tell you what. Do you have change for a $500,000 bill?
I think there were $500,000 bills years and years and years ago, but there hasn't.
No, there's a $100,000 bill.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, $100,000 bill. Yeah.
But I mean, the largest you're going to get now is a $100 bill.
$100 bill. Yeah, there's a $1,000 one. I think you have something, but you'd have to go back in time. But hey, guess what? We don't work for Treasury or Secret Service. We don't care about that stuff. Just as long as our checks clear the bank, that's all we care about. But speaking of that, Murph, we've had several stories about people breaking into houses and doing strange things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about how much time it would take to accomplish this next one. Mm-hmm. A woman told officers that someone entered her home between 6 p.m. February 12th and 2 p.m. February 13th and replaced her carpet.
Well, they can come over to my house. We can use some new carpet in here. This carpet in my office is looking a little ragged.
Yeah.
If we find that suspect, give me his number.
Yeah. If he does good work, I might hire him. But if he does it for free, even better.
Hey, my dad and my uncle owned a carpet store. I kind of grew up in that. It's hard. That's hard labor, buddy. I tell you, the installers, they earn their money.
Yeah. And anyway, but if you know them, send them our way. By the way, Steve, you work cases, you work crimes. You're trying to identify unsubs, as we call them, unknown subjects, mm-hmm. right? So getting a good description is always key, right? And most people don't get this descriptions right. I think this next guy nailed it, though.
Okay.
A Marysville man met a woman in a Seattle bar, and she went with him to his house in the 7600 block of 45th Street or 45th Drive Northwest to spend the night. When he woke up, she was gone, as was $700 in cash in his wallet. Guess what his description of her was?
She was naked. She
had red hair and large breasts.
Well, see, now, if my old partner Kevin Stevens was on here, that's all he would need. He could find her.
That's all. I will track you down. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so that's thus into the reading for the day. Kyrie Domine Danius Requiem. Anyway, hey, if you've got a good description of a suspect that you know, send it our way.
Absolutely.
We would love to hear about it.
Hey, we love to hear from all your comments. And in fact, I was looking on Chartable earlier this week, and I didn't see any new comments on there. It was the same things I read last week. So, you guys, pick it up here. Tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, help us out. Toss us a bone here, people. We need the 411, as Dr. Evil would say.
That's right.
But hey, Steve, speaking of the 411, and I don't know how it gets us into the next section, but it's a good segue nonetheless. This is another story that comes to us courtesy of Christy Schiller,
mm-hmm.
One of our favorite people in the world and the work that she's doing. And this one, I got to tell you, this one is packed. It's loaded with attitude.
Yeah. Our guest is Madison Sperry. police officer down in Texas, Constable in the Houston, Texas area, canine officer. And if you remember, if you haven't heard of Christy Schiller, she founded Canines for Cops and Canines for Kids, which donates canines to law enforcement agencies, mostly here in the United States, but they've also donated one in France. But Madison is someone that, well, I don't want to tell her story. She has a unique way of getting into law enforcement and how she became a canine officer. You got this cute young lady out there with this, mean ass dog, just to be quite honest with you, doing her thing with the kids. And this story she tells you about her little friend that was sick. Oh man, I tell you what, if I start thinking about it, I'll probably tear up here, but it's extremely motivational. And it's a perfect example of how law enforcement will go that extra mile just to help, kids in need, anybody in need. This is a motivational. This is very inspirational interview we're going to listen to right now.
And let me tell you what, you don't want to get crossways with her. She'll tell you about her struggles through college. And the catchphrase for me was D is for diploma. She has such a great sense of humor. But I'll tell you, the best thing is when you hear about the bond between her and her dog, Quelle, how she got the dog. And that's not her working dog. I mean, but that's her dog that she takes to events. And they've got a viral video with over 70 million hits now, where they were doing a thing in school and they were getting the dog, and everybody was doing these challenges, and they did Who Let the Dogs Out, and the dog barks in perfect time to it. Who let the dogs out? Woof, woof, woof. Anyway, so I did a bad imitation of that. But hey, man, if you want to hear who really let the dogs out, what do we got to do, Steve? What do we got to tell people?
Well,
are you ready to play? Well, hold on. Oh, you're getting ahead of yourself,
because this is a good interview.
Yeah. So, but I have to ask you, if you want to know who let the dogs out, I have to ask you one question. Are you ready to play the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, the original and canine-friendly Game of Crimes?
Yeah, baby. Listen, everybody, get in, sit down, shut up, and hold on. Madison is going to blow you away with this story.
Well, Murph, I tell you what, of all the episodes we do, the ones that seem to get a lot of feedback from Patreon, from Facebook, Twitter, anything involving animals. And the canine episodes have been so popular with people. We thought, let's do another one. And we're just struggling. What could we do? Who could we find? Who has a lip-syncing dog that is just a viral sensation? And there was only one person that came to mind, Madison Sperry. Welcome.
That's her. Madison, welcome to the show, girl.
Happy to be here.
Now, and see, this is going to be the most popular because people are going to hear her speaking and they're going to say, oh, a lip-syncing dog. And then they're going to go look at her pictures. And then they're going to realize why we wanted to have her on the show, because we have a very beautiful young lady with us here today, and I don't have to look at ugly ass Morgan all afternoon.
You're just jealous of my hair, pal, because I still got it. It's flowing. It's like Fabio,
If you want to throw up Madison anytime.
At least he brushed his hair today, because
that's right,
I didn't.
That's right.
Well, let's be clear. So Madison works midnight. She says she just got up 10 minutes before this, and you wouldn't know it. It's like threw her face on. She's ready to go. She's like camera ready.
Except you wouldn't know I'm still in my pajamas, so.
No, we wouldn't until you told us that. So
now this is a family show. Now keep it clean here now.
Hey, we're still family. We're very family friendly. So
we are. We truly are honored to have you on here, Madison. And we got to give a shout out to the person that connected us to you, and that's Miss Christy Schiller. Love that lady. Haven't met her in person yet, but you actually worked directly for Christy, didn't you?
I did. I did for years.
How'd that happen?
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, you want the life story? How we got here?
Well, let's not start when you were a babe in swaddling clothes. We can kind of fast forward through some of that stuff. Yeah. Hey, but first of all, before we do that, let's tell everybody, where are you now and what do you do?
So I am in Houston, Texas, and I am a law enforcement officer, canine, for Harris County Precinct 1 Constable in Houston, Texas.
And how long have you been doing that?
6 years.
All right. So prior to that 6 years, you did time with Christy. Now let's talk about that. So
did time.
Now, did she drive you into law enforcement? Is that what it was?
Kind of, but she actually didn't mean to. She did it unknowingly, and she kind of regretted it at the end because she created this monster. So she has a horse ranch in College Station, and so I moved down here from Kansas when I was 16.
Wait a minute. Oh, Kansas.
Kansas, yes,
Well, take a look on my back wall here.
Kansas Highway Patrol. I see it.
Where were you from?
Shawnee, right outside of Kansas City.
Know it well. Actually, one of my friends went to work there up in Shawnee on the police department there. So I grew up in a little town called Chapman.
Okay, see, connecting already.
See, Steve? Ha 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 ha.
There's a lot of things comments I can make here, but I'm trying to be nice because
Hey,
we
but
just
no,
started here at
Shawnee.
Madison, and I don't want to run her off.
Yeah, don't do that yet. Kansas is a good place. In fact, we just got the interview before you. We spent 3 hours with a friend of mine that was on the Kansas Highway Patrol, got into the huge shootout that was in western Kansas when you were a youth. But Danny Rometta, Lisa Dunn, they'd gone on a 6 state multi crime killing spree. And so we just got through talking about that. And now we got another Kansas connection. Murph, it's a sign. It's a sign this is going to be an excellent episode. So
I
you
believe
left,
it. I have got to get a mute button so I can shut you up here.
but why would you want to leave the great state of Kansas? Come on.
So my dad actually was diagnosed with cancer, and so we came down to the Houston area to be closer to MD Anderson.
Oh, that is a great center. Yeah.
Yeah. He ended up passing away though. But we had family down here. My stepmom had family down here, so we ended up staying in Texas. We brought horses and stuff down here, so it suited us a lot better than living in Kansas. So we brought a horse named Toto. We followed the yellow brick road down to
Oh my goodness.
down to
Now-
Houston.
That's appropriate.
Now, did you have a ranch then or a farm up in Kansas where you said you had a horse? You brought horses down from Kansas?
No, so we didn't have. We kept them on some land that was down the street from where we lived. We lived in the city, but right outside the city limits. We boarded them at a place that had like 50 acres. So after school we would walk there if our parents hadn't picked us up yet, and we'd go ride the horses and do all that. We were horse crazy, so moving to Texas was ideal.
And I can see a connection already because Christy has a horse ranch and you liked horses. So take us from there.
So came down here, went to Texas A&M. My freshman year at A&M, I had to live on campus. My parents said that that was the stipulation. I had to live on campus 1 year. So I was boarding my two horses at a facility down the street. So, I'm horse crazy, live, breathe, eat, sleep, horses. That's all I do. Didn't even have a dog at this time. I actually, up until this point, I'd never even owned a dog of my own. We had family dogs, but I never had a dog of my own. And one day, the barn manager said that there was a famous trainer coming in with, a handful of horses. They were boarding them here while their new facility was being built. So, you it's like anybody in the sports world, you have your heroes, who like JJ Watt is, who Tom Brady is, that kind of thing. Well, when they said this lady's name, she's like a NFL quarterback of the barrel racing world. So, introduce myself to her. I'm just the happy go lucky, hey, if you need anything, I'm always here kind of deal. And like and at the time I was already working 3 jobs, going to A&M full time and working 3 jobs. Like 2 days later, she offered me a job. I didn't know doing what. I just knew that, if Tom Brady offers you a job, you don't ask questions. You just say, okay. So I literally quit my other 3 jobs and didn't know what I'd be doing. I just knew that I would be working for her. And she said that, they have this amazing facility being built and, all sorts of stuff. So that's
Did you hear about Christy before you had moved down from there? Did you know about her in Kansas? Just only when you moved to A&M?
Yeah. And actually, up until this point, I didn't even know who Christy was. I just knew who this trainer was offering me a job. And Christy Schiller was the owner of the ranch. But
Oh, you're talking about the trainer. I'm sorry, I missed that for a second. So the person who was the legend, in barrel racing.
So that's how I initially got hooked up with the job. So she was going to hire me to, work with her on the horse side of things, doing the barrel racing, whatever she may needed kind of deal. So fast forward, I'm working at the ranch. Christy meets me, and I also meet her daughter, Sinclair. Well, not long after that, Christy basically steals me from the trainer, moves me from one section of the ranch to go to another, and basically just kidnaps me because she loved me so much and I was so good with her daughter. Um, and so even at this time, I mean, Canines for Cops isn't even really a mention right now, kind of deal. So at this point, basically, I became like they called me the super nanny, the ninja nanny, because I would travel with them because Sinclair was little at the time. And so I was very fortunate. I went all over the world with them. I went to Africa, I went to Europe, all sorts of things, just traveling with them while they were going on business meetings and stuff. So that's how I got hooked up with Christy. So anyways, they quickly moved me to the ranch. So now I was living at the ranch. Brought my horses over there, and so
Wait a minute. I've seen this plot in a movie before. I mean, it's like pretty soon you disappear and nobody sees you for like 3 years, right?
basically, I mean, I was at the ranch 24/7. I mean, my life revolved at the ranch.
But you were still going to A&M, right?
Yes, full time. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So at this point, when I moved out there, I was a sophomore at A&M, and
What were you studying?
so funny story.
Okay. Here's a
So
confession coming.
how do you go to A&M and get an ag degree and end up in law enforcement? So what had happened was
Because you're used to dealing with bullshit.
right. So it's funny. Growing up, I would always watch Criminal Minds, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so fascinated with it. I want to work for the FBI or whatever, like one of those stupid things." And so when I went to A&M, I actually went in because Google tells me, okay, if I want to like do Criminal Mind stuff, I need to do sociology and psychology. Like think, why does a criminal do what they do? Why do they think like they do? So that's what I went in for: sociology and psychology. Well, when we moved to Texas, I come from a small town where you could sleep and make an A. That philosophy did not work at A&M, so I quickly got on academic probation. So,
I've been there.
I think I was there twice. It was a reality check because my entire school was paid for. I was very fortunate that when my dad did pass away, he left.
He took care of you guys, had you set
Care
up.
of us, had us set up. So my college degree was completely paid for on the condition that I made good grades. So this first time around, I made C's or D's or something on a semester, and so that was my warning. And now, in my defense, it was math and science, so I was horrible at those. So my stepmom Tamara said, "Okay, this is your one free pass. If it happens again, you have to pay for that semester." Well, sure enough, it happened again. And I think a D was my highest grade that semester. So I literally had to take out a student loan to pay for that semester, which I'm still
Now,
paying.
wait a minute.
Which I'm still paying on to this day.
You had a free pass and you got a freebie. What led you to the second time? Was it partying? Was it just not taking it seriously? Was it living the high life? What was it?
So it wasn't partying. I didn't drink. I rarely went out. I was working all the time. Just working and I didn't apply myself. I hated to study. Absolutely hated it. So, oh, hey, there's our final exams tomorrow. Okay, let me open the book, for 5 minutes before. Okay, let me try to wing it. Well, winging it didn't work, clearly. So, at that point, that was a reality check. I probably need to switch my major because I'm going to get kicked out of A&M. So I switched to what they call ALED, which is Agriculture Leadership Development and Education, or something. Ag Leadership Education and Development, or something. Basically, it's ag business. You can do anything for it, but that's what all the football players major in. So it should tell you how easy it is. So switched into that, minored in ag business. Got my grades back up. I mean, it was, super easy. It's one of those like just universal degrees that you can kind of go anywhere with, clearly, since I
Like underwater basket weaving,
Yes, at this point, I just needed that expensive piece of paper that said I passed 4 years at A&M. I did it.
Even if it said just barely, I passed.
Hey, D for diploma, okay?
D-
D for diploma. So I made it.
That's an optimistic point of view there.
Oh my God. Now, did you do it in 4 years?
I did. Yes, sir. I sure did. I graduated in 2014, got my Aggie ring. Life was good.
And then?
So prior to that, Christy, she had already started Canines for Cops. And so I was kind of helping out with some of that. A lot of it was Houston based and the ranch was in College Station. So it was hard to kind of bounce back and forth, but I would help out with as much as I could. Well, Christy had actually got herself a personal protection dog named Daisy, who was a Belgian Malinois. And every time she would bring her to the ranch, I fell in love with the dog, and I would try to steal her away, because the dog, it's a bite dog. It does this, it does all these cool tricks and cool stuff. So it's like, okay, yeah, this is awesome. So, I would take her and I would go play with her and, just try to steal her as much as I can. And so Christy slowly started seeing this dog obsession develop. And so while this is happening, I became friends with Jazz Stanzi, who owns Houston Canine Academy, who is where Canines for Cops gets most of their dogs that they donate to law enforcement agencies. So at this point, now I am surrounding myself by around nothing but dogs. And so it slowly got to the point where I was living and breathing and eating, sleeping dogs. And my horses were just like sitting in the pasture in the paddock, like, hey, remember us?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, what
You know what we
happened?
haven't heard for the last 5 minutes? Anything mentioned about the kid you were supposed to be watching?
Oh, yeah. So I still did that.
What kid?
So-
There's a kid here. All I see is a dog.
Put the kid on the back of the horse. Let him
Still
walk
did
around the
that,
field.
traveled with them everywhere they went on the weekends. I'm very fortunate. I got to do some pretty amazing things because of that.
Where's the for you the most memorable place you went to?
Africa. And actually, we went 8 years ago today. I saw it on my
No
Facebook.
kidding.
Yeah, my Facebook memories. The timeline pulled up. Yeah, we were in Africa 8 years ago today. And so that is definitely the most memorable trip that I ever went on with them. It was incredible. Still to this day, if somebody asked me, hey, pack your bags, pick a place to go tomorrow, we're flying out, I would pick South Africa. Hands down. And I've been some pretty cool places, but that place just, left
Where did you go in there?
it was the southeastern Cape. It was a private safari that actually some of her friends, some of the Schiller's friends, owned, and so it was a huge, like 70,000 acres, and every day was a new adventure. It took us almost the entire 2 weeks just to see a giraffe.
Wow.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a pack of lions just driving by. I'm sitting there taking selfies with them, and it was absolutely incredible.
I'm not an expert on lions, but taking a selfie with a lion when the lion is behind you seems to me to be an inherently dangerous thing.
We did it. They say that the lions accept the shape of the trucks that are driving by with all the people in them. Now, when you start standing up and making movement and changing that shape that they are accustomed to, that's when you can run into problems. So clearly they're used to people trying to take selfies. So I was okay. We didn't get eaten. So
Wow.
Not counting the other 2 people who disappeared while they were on the safari. Where'd those guys go? I don't know.
we don't know. They went for a long walk and never came back. So while all of this is happening, Christy sees my love for dogs developing, and now all I'm around is canine officers because I'm going to all of the events with Christy and helping out with the social media, doing as much as I can. Well, when I graduated from A&M in 2014, Christy bought me Quelle, who is my little special canine who has opened so many doors for me. So her and her husband, John, bought Quelle for me as a graduation gift from A&M. She came as a personal protection dog. She was a 2-year-old wild Belgian Malinois. It took like an hour for her to even come up from the back of the crate to meet me, because Jazz had picked her out from Hungary, brought her over, she picked her out specifically for me. And so it wasn't like you go to the pound, you you let each of these dogs sniff you. Okay, which one's going to accept me? Okay, which one do I want? No, this was like a match that had to happen.
Yeah.
Well, it was it was a match made from heaven. So she got me Quella, and that's when my life completely changed from what I knew and the endless possibilities that arose. Oh, look, there's a cat.
That's
The
Spud
endless.
nuts.
Well, no, this is the lighter one of the two. This is Rosebud. Fanny, when she's hungry, you'll hear it, you'll see it. Cats are like dogs. When they want something, right?
Yes, yeah. As Quella just came up trying to play, or I don't know, she went off. I'm not giving her a treat right now, so she's like, whatever.
Oh, same thing with Murph. You don't give him a treat, he goes away. He just stomps and goes
Right.
in the corner and
Just tap his head. Good boy.
Yeah, I missed my nap today anyway, so
Right. So after Christy got me Quella, that's when I started. So College Station was about an hour and a half from Houston, and Quella was already trained personal protection. But what I would do is when I would get off work at the ranch, 4 or 5 o'clock at night, I would drive an hour and a half down to Houston and go meet up with Jazz, Houston K9, some of the officers that I knew who were training, and I would start training with Quella because I couldn't get enough of it. Quella was just this bad little dog. I mean, like bad in the good sense. Like she is just a rock star. And so here I am trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing? The dog is clearly smarter than me. So let me figure this
I
out.
bet the dog got at least B's in doggy school.
No, she was an A+ student for sure.
there you go.
So I got bit literally figuratively by the canine bug, and I just slowly started falling in love with it. And at this time, this was so I graduated in 2014, and 2015 is when I decided to go to the academy. And when I decided to do that, it was, and don't get me wrong, I had an amazing life at the ranch. I mean, John and Christy took amazing care of me. Clearly, I mean, I got to travel the world, but it was one of those, I felt like I had more to offer. I felt like my wings needed to expand and fly. And so that was actually one of the hardest conversations I've ever had.
And as they say in Texas, right, it went over like a turd in a punch bowl.
Yeah. So, like I said, I had made friends with a lot of the canine officers, in the deputies that, I had met through Canines for Cops. And so I had started talking to them like, hey, if I want to become a police officer, like, what do I have to do, kind of deal. And so, I was very fortunate. There was two in particular that really took me under their wings and guided me through all of this. And so I finally built up the courage one day to tell Christy that I was leaving her.
After how many years?
Gosh, 6 or 7 living there.
Wow.
Or 6 years living, I believe.
So you're a part of the family.
Something like that. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, they were my second set of parents. I mean, I considered them, another set of parents of mine. And
So you did time on the inside. You did 6, 7 years at the Schiller Ranch. Is that about how long you were there?
yes.
Wow. And then you decided it was time for the little butterfly to go free. And you said
Yeah.
that was a tough. What was the toughest part about that conversation? Was it that you felt like you were letting her down because of all the stuff she had done for you? I mean, sometimes people feel obligated because they do these great things for you, but it was her fault. If she hadn't given you a dog, you never would have felt this way. If she just kept you on horses, I mean, who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. So I did. I felt like, that maybe that they would be disappointed, because I mean, who in their right mind would want to leave a position like that? I mean, I had such an amazing life. I mean, I lived on a luxury horse ranch. I had anything and everything I could possibly imagine. And they were so good to me. And then here I am wanting to leave that and go become a police officer
And work midnights.
and work midnights. Well, now I do that by choice. But so I remember going into the living room in their house, and she was sitting on the couch, and I sat next to her, and I was like, I need to tell you something. And like when you tell like your parents that, because like I said, I mean, I consider her, like one of my parents. It's like one of those, you feel like you're about to tell them you're pregnant or something. Like I need to talk. I need to tell you something.
I never
And
had
so
that discussion with my parents. I'm sorry. Mom, I'm pregnant.
So she stops what she was doing and she looks over at me like this serious face. And she's like, I already know. And I'm like, I want to go. I want to become a police officer, and I want to do canine. And she just, she smiled and she said, I kind of figured, that was happening. She was really sad. And she's like, she tried to talk me into staying. She's like, I'll get you another dog. You can train dogs here. You can have as many dogs as you want here. Just don't leave. She was trying to do anything and everything to keep me at the ranch. And I just, like I said, I felt like, my wings needed to expand. I just felt like it was time.
Why law enforcement? Why not go be a dog trainer? So was it something specifically about the interactions you'd had with law enforcement, the canines, that says I want to be a canine handler in law enforcement?
Oh yeah, I absolutely fell in love with it. Chris Moore, who I know who
We've had
has
on?
been on,
Yeah.
yes, he's a very, very dear friend of mine. I've known him over 10 years. He's one of the ones who really took me under his wing. He is very near and dear to my heart. And, just people like him, what they do on a daily basis, the law enforcement side of the job, and then adding the dog into it. I just like, I really want to do this. And so
You
off
did.
I went. Off I went. So I was very fortunate. Christy, she still kept me. She let me, I stayed at their house in Houston while I was going to the academy. So it was like, she let me go, but she didn't let me go. So,
She's like, I'll get my hooks into you, my dear. You're not going to get that far away. But
yeah, absolutely. So literally I lived at their house in Houston and still, got to do things with their daughter and stuff. And, luckily their house was only like 2 miles away from, downtown Houston where my academy was. So, I brought Quelle down. Quelle actually lived in their chicken coop that they had while I was gone during the day. So we modified their chicken coop so Quelle could have, like a nice little outdoor area to stay in while I was in the academy 8 hours a day. And
you didn't have to
so,
stay
yeah.
there. That was just a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Well, that's cush.
Yeah, so that's nice. So I would go there, come back, study, take Quelle out for a training session,
You studied
whatever.
for these classes, did you?
Well, so I was the top of my class.
Look
Yes,
at you. All
I
right.
studied for this.
All right.
But was it something to do with agriculture? Like, what do dogs eat? I know.
No, it was the penal code. It was the traffic laws. All of this. I maintain academic. Oh gosh, what is
Excellence.
it? I don't know. Yeah, academic excellence. I got awards for being at the top of my class, y'all. There was some tests I made 100% on. I was like, where was this at A&M?
Well, it goes back to that old saying: you find a job you like, you'll never work a day in your life, and you're doing that right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
now,
like I said,
did you get those grades because it came easy to you, or did you get those grades because you said, look, I'm moving out. I've obviously Christy and John been very kind to me, but I have to do this on my own. What was the incentive for you to get the good grades this time? What changed between this and A&M?
I was passionate about it. And it was something that I wanted to do for myself. Because you hear people talking, oh, they made this on the test or they made this. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to make, the highest score possible kind of deal. And I was very passionate about it. Because it's one of those, okay, I'm not just waking up each day. Okay, what does the ranch, what are we going to do today? Oh, a pig got out or a horse got out. Okay, whatever. All right. Well, we didn't really have pigs. We didn't have pigs. We had goats and stuff. The goats would always get out.
Sounds like some small town police blotter.
Yeah, y'all. It was always something going on at the ranch.
Well, it sounds like that competitive edge you had from working with the lady that did the barrel racing is carrying over.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So I am a naturally very competitive person.
Except your first 3 years of A&M.
Yeah, because I just, it was one of those, like I said, D for diploma, as long as I get this piece of paper, whatever. It's just one of those. I never enjoyed school. I mean, I went to school, but I was never like, and I only went to sports games because Christy made me,
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
I didn't even want to go to that stuff.
Well, let's hold on a second. If you didn't really enjoy school, a lot of people say, like even Chris said it. He said it wasn't for me. I think he was military, so some people say, nope, that's not for me. And they go on. Why did you persist for 4 years if it wasn't fun?
Well, because I'm still gonna do it. I mean, I'm not gonna let my parents down, especially my dad. It was one of those. I may not enjoy it, but I'm not the type to quit or give up. So
Good.
I'm still
Good.
gonna do it.
Okay.
And I mean, that was back in 2014 when I graduated. And even then, it was so competitive. Like you have to have a degree to even get a decent paying job, whatever. Like, I mean, a degree is what sets you apart from so many people. And so even back then, I say back then, 8 years ago, it was like I have to have this degree regardless, whether I enjoy it or not. So yeah, I pushed through and just did it, and you know.
Hey,
Good
before
job.
we go too much farther, talk real quick though about applying. Why did you pick where you're at? Did you apply other places, or did you apply with Harris County because that's where you're at and that's who you knew?
Yes, that's where I was at, and that's who I knew. So I I was very fortunate. More fortunate than most who are trying to get into this profession, and especially into canine, which we can get into that here in a second. Because of Christy and because of my position with Canines for Cops, I was going to all of their events. I knew everybody. Everybody knew me as a civilian, as um, I knew the sheriff. I knew all of the constables. I knew a lot of people just because I was a very friendly, social person at all of these events. Hey, I'm how's it going? Kind of deal. Um, and I never knew at the time leading up to it, that these relationships were forming and building and that they would help me later on down the road. I just was being myself and trying to make it easier for especially like when I'm doing the social media for Canines for Cops or going to all these events. I know who everybody is. um and it just helps out with all of that. But little did I know that it was actually paving the way for the future when I did get into law enforcement, because I was fortunate at the time. I could have gone anywhere I wanted. If I wanted to go to the sheriff's office, he offered a spot for me there. Um, hey, apply to here, apply here. I ultimately ended up with precinct 1 because my boss, Constable Alan Rosen, is just absolutely phenomenal. Where Christy lives in Houston is inside precinct 1. Um, and I was also very good friends with Lori Crone, who also sits on the Canines for Cops board. And she's very good friends with Constable Rosen. Fast forward, Lori is actually the one who purchased my police canine, but we'll get into that later on. So it was one of those. I had a lot of options to choose from, and I just felt, not only me, but Christy, Lori, as we're all talking about, hey, where should I go? We all just kind of felt like precinct 1 was the best fit. And I am so thankful that I went that route.
At any point in your life, up to where you're starting to look at law enforcement, did you ever think you'd become a police officer?
Never. I mean, nobody in my family is law enforcement. I mean, my dad was a truck driver, passed away from cancer, but I mean, that's what he did. He was a truck driver. My stepmom, she's in the medical billing field. My sisters, they all do an assortment of things. But no, I don't even have a cousin, an uncle, nothing in law enforcement. Um, and
You're the
some
first.
people, yeah, the first. And everything that has happened has been because of Quella. I fell in love with that and decided that, watching what Chris does, and a lot of these other guys, and at the time there was very few females. Actually, I didn't even know a single female handler at the time other than Jazz, but she was just she's a civilian. She's the one who trains all of these dogs. But I didn't even know a female canine officer. There wasn't any, which we'll get to that here in a couple minutes too.
So you're just breaking all sorts of ground.
Yes. Yes. So, I was very, very fortunate. I still count my lucky stars, how it happened, why it happened. So I got hired on with Constable Rosen's office in Precinct 1, and I got sworn in May. It's a brand new officer off this, straight out of the academy. I got my dog in December. I got Canine Le Mans in December. Hit this, went to training, hit the streets with him in March of 2017.
So you have less than a year on. You've already gone through, you got hired, you went through the academy, and you've got a dog.
6 months. Yeah.
6 months.
6 months. It was one of those, like I said, I'm fortunate. I had some experience. Well, I say experience, very, very light experience coming in, just handling the personal protection dogs. Jazz would always let me put my hands on dogs at the kennel, and, I'm around all of this training and stuff. And so it just so happened that they had a canine spot open up, and it was one of those take it now and figure it out as you go kind of deal.
Later. Hey, before we go any farther, you've mentioned this a few times, and I should have asked you earlier, but I want to make a distinction between canines that are for law enforcement, and you said personal protection dog. So what are the main differences between a dog that is personal protection and a dog that's trained for law enforcement?
So the dogs that are trained for law enforcement generally are going to be trained for suspect apprehension, which is similar to personal protection. So let me back up just one step. So when these dogs come over from Europe, when people like Jazz, who are going over to select these dogs for law enforcement purposes, most of these dogs have already been started in personal protection, which is bite work, just handler protection, that kind of stuff, because they do a lot of the sporting events in Europe. And so these dogs are already geared towards that. And then when people like Jazz go over, they see what these dogs can do. Okay, this dog will make a phenomenal police dog. So the main difference from the personal protection dogs to the police dogs is just taking that personal protection and kind of upping it a level. Because these dogs are very naturally protective. So like Quelle was a personal protection dog trained specifically for me. So she can assess threats. We would do scenarios and in training where, I could have her in my vehicle. I could get out. I distinctively remember one. It was a training scenario. I got out. I left the door open. Bella's sitting in the car. I get out to go to a trash can at a baseball field and just dump something in the trash. And my back is turned to the vehicle, and my back is turned to where the quote unquote bad guy is coming out from under the bleachers. Quella sees that, assesses that before I even know that he is coming up behind me. She takes action, leaves the vehicle, and goes and makes contact on the bad guy. It was a training scenario.
No. That's a euphemism. Make contact.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear. Quella put the habeas gravis. Yeah.
She bit him.
We're
So that's the biggest thing, is that these dogs can assess these threats. And so Quella, that's at the time, that's all she knew, was just personal protection. So she didn't know how to track a bad guy. So like if we have a bad guy run through the woods or a building or something, something like that, she didn't know how to do any of that. So that's kind of the main distinction between a personal protection and a law enforcement canine, is that the law enforcement canines can do that. They can track through the woods, building searches. They can extract a human from a vehicle, search for narcotics, search for explosives, search for guns, that kind of thing.
So you're at a ballpark and there's other people there, and this guy's is he gonna mug you? What was his intent, or do you know?
Well, so it was a training scenario. So
Training.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Yeah. So it was just
it's late in the afternoon for Murph. His pain medication's kicking in.
I missed my nap today.
Well, you try to recreate some real world scenarios, and
Right.
hey, I'm gonna get out of my car. I'm gonna go, throw my Chick-fil-A trash or whatever it is away, and
Mhm.
oh, hey,
Well,
it's Houston.
Yeah, anything could happen. But let me ask you a question, because when you do that stuff, in order to enable the personal protection capability of the dog, to be available to you. Like if you're getting out or if you're doing something, you don't have a release on your car. So either if the windows aren't down, your dog's inside the car, right? Can't get out if you need them. So do they go through and train you like, hey, if you're getting out, leave the door open, or if you're going to be here for a little time, roll the window down so your dog can get out to protect you?
Yeah. Yeah. So leave the window down. Because the dogs will, like we've done scenarios where she came out of my sunroof. Because so the personal protection, I mean, and similar to the canines too, they're always watching their handler, regardless of what they're trained for. I mean, the second you get out of your car, I mean, they are up, ears are alert, and they are watching, okay, what is my mom? What is my dad doing? So it's just, it's phenomenal what these dogs can do.
The reason
and how loyal they are.
The reason I asked that is Chris Moore told us a story about how he had to write a memo about his dog. He needed his help, and it was in the back, and he wasn't able to open the door. The dog came through the center console, tore the console out, to get out, I think, to go help him. I can't remember, but it's like he had to write a memo about his torn up console in the car because that dog was just
damage to county property. Yes.
It sounds like you've been
Chris
there.
Yeah. So I've known the last two of Chris's dogs, and they are a little
nuts.
Yeah, to put it nicely, yeah.
Are they nuts because they're nuts, or are they nuts because Chris is nuts?
They do say dogs take after their handlers, so
we're not saying anything. So
I don't foresee Chris watching this, and if he does, I mean, maybe he'll fast forward through that part and he won't hear that. But yeah, and they both have as much gray hair too, so it's one of those.
Yes. Wonder where it goes.
Right?
So, but you get out. And now the other thing too, let me make a point. Some folks will say, well, that's not fair. She knew these people and stuff. Let me tell you something else though, too. Oh, there it is.
See,
personal protection zone activated. Yeah.
Yeah. They hear somebody at the door. And so it's, protective
We're just going to leave that in. That's cool.
Yeah.
but you get to a certain point and you think, oh, they know somebody, they'll get me an in. You get to a certain level too, to where it's about your credibility. Steve and I do the same thing. There are certain people we will introduce to other people, and there's certain people we won't, because your credibility, your reputation goes with it. So you might think that you got it was great because they all knew you. No, you got where you were because the people put their reputation on the line. And if they didn't trust you implicitly that you could deliver and be the person that they thought you would be, you never would have got a recommendation from them, because their word is gold. And if they start tarnishing it by recommending people who are, failures or losers or bad apples, nobody wants to hear from them again. So I didn't want you to short sell that a little bit too much.
Yeah. And I want to ask you too, when you were selected for K9, there being brand new on the job, I was a cop for 38 years, and I know there's a lot of jealousy with all the type A's.
Yes.
Did you get kickback on that?
All the time. And I actually got it when I was first hired on too. Like you said, people talk. People get jealous. I was told countless times, you're just here because you're a pretty face, or you're just here because you know people. And this is even before getting in the dog. Like I said, I was so fortunate, and I'm so blessed that I did get hired on as quickly and as easily as I did. I'm forever grateful to Constable Rosen for that.
Yeah, let me call it bullshit for a second. You said as quickly as easily as I did. You put in how many years though with Christy, with working with dogs, with going to these events, with being there? You did at least 5 or 6 years before you got ever into that position, didn't you?
Correct. But I mean, just into the department itself before K9 was even a.
I know we're giving you props here, but it's like, it's one thing to walk in and go, "Hi, I'm Madison Sperry, hire me," and everybody goes, "Oh, it's Madison, let's hire her." No, you built a reputation for showing up, for being there, for doing the work, for being dependable. They saw how you treated people, they saw how you treated dogs. I mean, let me put it this way: you might have thought it took you 6 months. It took you 5 years before that to get to that point where you were.
And I worked my ass off. I did.
Right.
And maybe that's part of it too, why I strived to be at the top of the class. I did. I had physical accommodations, the physical fitness, and then academic accolades, every chance, every award that could be received or like accolade, whatever, all of the little plaques and certificates or whatever that they print out, I got.
Wow.
And so
Damn overachiever.
I wanted it to be on my own merit. I mean, yes, I'm so thankful that I did have Christy and I had that background, but I always wanted it to also be on my own merit. I'm not here because I know people. I'm here because I deserve to be here. And
Well,
so
and that didn't count for squad in the academy. Nobody cares in the academy. You either
no,
pass
not
the
in the
test or you
academy.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they didn't care. The academy is, I mean, it's a bunch of, whatever. That's drama in itself,
That's a bunch of
It's
what?
like it's like
Let's-
a high school clique all over again.
Oh yeah.
Well, you said it's a bunch of. Let's finish out that thought. A bunch of not whatever, but a bunch of what?
But a bunch of assholes, really.
Yeah.
Well, but hey, let's just take a slight detour here because on the episode we had with Mark Comboy, him and I were talking when I went through my first academy in '82, and there were a few females in our class, but when I went through the state academy in '84, it was only the third time in the nearly 50-year history of the Highway Patrol that they had ever hired a woman.
Oh, wow.
So it was only the third woman. And so a lot of people, you look at it and you go, there was some pushback. I mean, not for me. My dad was military. We lived around the world too, been all these places. So having a female in there, a woman, that's all I grew up with, by the way, too, with my mom and two sisters. So it didn't bother me that much. But were you getting pushback more because of what they perceived your relationship to be in the academy there? Was it more because you were a female or a combination of both? Because look, every asshole or every academy has their assholes, but it's unfortunate sometimes that they let folks like that taint, somebody or try to impact somebody's career before it even gets started because of petty jealousy.
So the academy that I went to actually was not affiliated with Precinct 1. So it's so here in Texas, like if you go to the sheriff's office or if you go to Houston Police Department, they have their own academies that you have to go to. But if you go anywhere else, like the constable's offices or some of these, other city municipalities, you just have to go to a basic police academy and get your basic peace officer's license, which is what I did. So I actually went through the University of Houston Basic Peace Officer Academy. So you go there, you get your license, your TCOL license. You graduated, you're a basic peace officer now, and then you can go to whatever department that you want. So in the academy, no, I didn't necessarily receive a whole lot of backlash or jealousy, whatever, anything like that. Because none of them, I was the only one who was even going to Precinct 1. It's just kind of one of those. You go here and then everybody just kind of finds their own paths and departments. Now, when I got to Precinct 1, yes, I did receive. I joked. I was like, man, I should have become a
Everybody
fighter,
loves firefighters.
a
Yeah.
firefighter because of all this
No.
heat I'm taking. No, I mean, I was
Don't drag
was
yourself down
fading.
there.
I was fading so much heat. People just saying, I'm only here because I know people. So again, I'm very competitive, and prior to getting the dog, I was just a basic patrol deputy, and I set out, I'm not here because I know people. I'm here because I deserve to be here. I'm not just going to wear this uniform. I'm going to put it to work. So actually, if memory serves me correct, my first 2 months on the street, after I'd already went through the field training program, I'm a solo officer on the street. I led our patrol division in stats for the first 2 months, and I showed everybody I deserve to be here. um, I'm not here because I know people. Well, I am. That helped, yes. But I'm here because my own merit will carry my weight. And
Mhm.
so went out there. It shut a lot of people up for the time being. But then fast forward 6 months, it's December. I'm now getting a dog. We have people who, it's just it was one of those things. It was going to happen. Everybody knew it was going to happen. Did we know it was going to happen that fast? No, but it did. And anybody in my position would have been crazy to say, no, I'm not ready for a dog yet, so I'm going to pass. No, everybody's going to take that, and then you're just going to learn as you go, because
You're going to figure it out.
I'm a 6-month patrol deputy who's about to now get a dual purpose dog. So speaking of the females, so at this time, there was not a single female canine officer or deputy employed by a Harris County agency. I was the first one in over 15 years. The sheriff's
Wow.
office, yeah. So who Chris works for, the sheriff's office, they had one, but it had been about 15 years since she had been in K9. So,
Does that include Houston PD?
no, no.
Okay.
Houston, I believe they had one or two, but a Harris County agency, sheriff's office, constable, any of that. I was the first one in over 15 years. So that was kind of cool.
Hey, before you go
Sure.
too far down, let's talk about the process of getting there. So when you said everybody knew it was going to happen because of your work with the dogs, is like you were going to be the next one in line, or did you also have to compete for the position too?
Um, no, I would say I did not have to compete for the position. Like I said, I was very fortunate, and it just kind of happened because of my prior experience coming into it with Canines for Cops, with the dogs kind of deal. And
Right,
so
because you'd already done a lot of work with canines and with dogs, and had been there from the training and the deployment, and working with the law enforcement agency. So you were already not only very familiar with law enforcement, you were very familiar with the process and the dogs and what they had to go through, right?
correct. And I say that, but and yes, I did have, I was fortunate because like I said, Jazz is one of my best friends, and she really just again took me under her wing. And I mean, I did so much training with them, so much training with Chris. I would take Quella to everything. I mean, I'm the only civilian in the middle of all these cops running these scenarios. I actually just watched a video of Quella the other day. We were doing felony stops with gunfire. Here I am in my little, like pink tank top or whatever, surrounded by all these cops, and I'm sending Quella after a bad guy with a gun shooting at her. And it's just, it's just awesome. I was just smitten by it. And, so a lot of that experience helped coming into this, but going from a personal protection dog like Quella to a street patrol dog, I mean, I had so much to learn still. Yes, I was familiar with the dogs and the basic, functions, but learning a patrol dog, I mean, yeah, I definitely had my work cut out for me. And you got to remember, at the same time, I'm still learning my regular job too. I've only been on patrol for 6 months. So it was
The
one of
dogs,
those. I
the
learned
dogs
as
got more
I
street
learned as I
experience
go.
than you do at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Hey, so talk about that. So you go to the process of getting the dog, like you say, you get the dog, and then it's another 2 months or 3 months for training.
Yeah, so it was I believe 9 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that. So went through, a training course with Houston Canine Academy. 8, 9, 10-hour days. I believe I know I got Canine Le Mans in December, picked him out. And then
Now
class
wait a
started.
minute. Do you pick them out, or there's always a discussion. Do you pick them out, or do the dogs pick you?
Uh, it's a little bit of both. Definitely. I remember Jazz had showed me, 5 or 6 dogs. I'll be honest, a couple of them I didn't like because they weren't very pretty. Well, I mean, if we're being honest, um,
Boy, it's not the dog's fault. Come
no,
on.
it's not the dog's fault, but it's like, okay, I want one that like looks badass, is badass. And so ended up with Le Mans, and he was probably a little he's actually, so funny story. He's actually not the dog that Jazz wanted me to have. Um so I have another Mal. So I have 3 Mals total, Belgian Malinois, and my other one,
All at the same time?
yes, so I have 2 at the time. I'm picking out Canine Le Mans. Yes, so I'm that crazy dog person, dog lady.
Oh my God! And Mal's are high tempo,
They're
high.
crazy. Yes,
Yeah.
they're crazy. And so I clearly, my head is not screwed on straight. So Jazz had actually brought over a female Malinois that was the full sister, same litter, to the other Malinois that I had at home. She had wanted me to have her as my patrol canine, but my sergeant at the time felt that she was not big enough, because I am a female. So obviously I've got some disadvantages. If somebody sees somebody like Chris Moore, who's all beefed up SWAT, okay, yeah, they're not gonna they're not gonna give him a whole lot of trouble. But then they see me get out, and then I bring out this little tiny dog. They will probably just laugh. So my
Well, it's
sergeant at
not
the
like a little
time,
French poodle or a Chihuahua,
yeah. So my sergeant at the time wanted me to get a little bigger dog, and so that's partly how we ended up with Canine Le Mans. Was he probably a little too much dog for me initially at the time? Yes. But we made it work. I mean, he's been a phenomenal partner. We're going on, 6 years in December together.
Has he ever, quote, air quote, contacted you?
Yes, I have a couple scars. Yes,
Okay.
I have. Yes, he has contacted me. Yeah, he's bit me a couple times during training and learning as we go. They say it's not a matter of uh, if you get bit; it's a matter of when you get
And
bit.
how many times?
And
Yeah.
how many times? Yeah. So yes, I have been to the emergency room a few times, getting some stitches, that kind of thing.
How
But
does the dog react to it when they bite their handler? Are you just another piece of chicken to them? It's like, I see something that's a target, or do they actually have some kind of a reaction to it after they realize they bit their handler?
yeah, I think sometimes they do have a little bit of a reaction to it. Mine were unfortunately during some training exercises, so it wasn't necessarily the dog's fault. Got my hand in front of his mouth when it shouldn't have been, and got a hold of it, kind of deal. So it's not necessarily the dog's fault by any means. But it does happen. These dogs are super super hyper and strong, and when they get into these drive modes of sometimes they don't necessarily know who they just bit, but then it's like a reality. Ooh, I should not have bit them, kind of deal.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you have this monster with teeth chomping, don't put your hand in front of it.
Now, do you get the ears back look like we see on all these funny dog videos where they go like, "Who did it?" And they go, "Oh," you see that look is like, "Oh,
Oh
it
no.
was me."
Mm-mm. No.
No, you don't.
No.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
they're
It's just
just
like it's
they're
like,
just
hey,
drive forward. It's like, hey,
yeah,
your problem, not mine.
yeah,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have done that.
Am I
Stupid.
getting fed again tonight though? That's all they hear about. Are you
Right.
feeding me?
Right.
I'm a toy. I'm a toy now.
So how long did it take you before you were in a comfortable rhythm?
With the dog, it was a learning process because he was so much stronger than Quella. Quella was so easy. Even learning as I went with her, she was just so easy. Um, Whereas Le Mans, it was definitely sometimes we did struggle. Yes. We might butt heads. And it was definitely a learning process. I would say, once we got out of training and then started feeling our groove on the street, I mean, definitely a couple months, because you got to remember, I'm still trying to kind of find my groove a little bit just as a police officer without a dog. And then now add in this dual purpose narcotic and suspect apprehension dog. So it was one of those, every day was a learning experience. I did the best that I could, or that I thought I was doing. Might have pissed a few people off in the process, which I've been told. You know, I can sometimes come off as
What do you mean?
very. Uh,
Go
so
ahead. Yeah.
I've been told that I can come off as very abrasive, and they like to use cocky, but I don't think I'm cocky. I'm just very confident. And you almost have to be in this line of work because you're around a bunch of guys, and so y'all aren't really familiar with Houston, but I work the straight up hood. So I don't take shit from anybody. And so
I mean, of all the cops I've met, I've never met a cocky one yet.
right,
No.
right.
They're all humble.
Well,
They're all humble and self-deprecating like us.
So when I first got into patrol, there was only one other female patrol deputy in our patrol division, that was on the street, not including two uh, command positions, command staff positions. So there was only one other female on the street, and so it's just there wasn't a whole lot of females, and so I had to walk around like my pair was this bigger than some of these guys, because if not, they would walk all over me.
That's the only way alpha males get the message sometimes, is you can't.
Right.
Well,
So
and you know what? If you were a pushover, nobody'd want to work with you on the street.
right. It's kind of one of those double-edged swords too, because if you're a pushover, nobody wants to work with you, but if you're an asshole, nobody wants to work with you either. So it's like trying to find this happy medium, because I had a lot of people try to walk all over me, and I'm not going to have that. So it was kind of just trying to find, and still struggling with having to deal with people's jealousies, and some of the negative things that they would say about me, especially getting the dog so quick, and stuff like that. So it was definitely a little bit of a bumpy road for a little bit, but we came out and started putting bad guys in jail, taking guns and money and drugs off the streets, and it kind of started to subside from there.
Well, when you got the results, and the other thing too, I was going to say too, Steve, when I'm sitting here listening to her talk, she goes, "No, I just wouldn't take their shit." That reminded me so much of Christy when she decided, "I'm just going to do this. I don't need your permission." Just
Yeah,
and
it does sound like her.
Yeah, it does. I can see. Rubbed off on you.
I learned from the best. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a cop back in the 70s, uniform cop back in the 70s, a long time ago, the first female officers came out. What I wanted to know is, are you going to stand there with me and fight when we have to fight? And as long as you do, that's fine. You know, I mean, but that's not just females. I got in a bar fight one night, and it's, my backup, as I've got about 5 guys on my back, I see him driving, leaving me there by myself.
Oh,
so
we've all got those too, man.
No respect for him anymore.
My shift partner, when I was a detective, we're out doing some helping the gang unit stuff, but we're out at a park and a guy's got a gun. I say gun, and we're starting to fight this guy. What does he do? He stands back and like, "Oh, I'll just watch this shit go on." It's like, get your ass in here, get your ass. There's a gun, and it's like, but I'll tell you what, but it takes an incident like that. After that, it changes the whole working relationship, because it's like,
absolutely.
WTF over there, Homer? What are you doing sitting up there when we're all trying to fight this guy with a gun, a felon in possession of a gun, a banger, and you're standing back? What are you in command now? You're going to just write the narrative when we're all get our asses shot? I mean, what's the deal here?
Yeah, it's funny. I'll be one of the first one throwing hands, throwing punches, whatever. Like I'm right up in there, and I people love to judge off first impressions, appearances, whatever. And so I get it a lot, hey, she's just a pretty face, she's the department, like I'm posted a lot on their Facebooks, for stuff that I do. They call me the poster child for, Canines for Cops, and sometimes the department and stuff, because, I'm utilized for a lot of things because of my dog, Quelle. I don't, y'all, I'll be honest, I don't go to stuff if I don't get to take a dog. So
Gee, can you imagine being out on a date? Hi, this is my dog.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, you had a dog in your profile picture. Where's the dog?
Table for 3.
That's right. Well, I pulled up the email where Christy introduced us to you, and the title on it is Superstar. And I think there's nothing less than that what she put in those words right there that we're talking to right now.
Well, she's pretty incredible. And she created this monster, so
it's your problem. It's your fault, Christy. She's in Harris County. Yeah.
She is the reason I am who I am today. And because she bought me this dog, Quelle, who literally just came up and is like, "Hi, Mom. What are we talking about? I keep hearing my name." So yeah, she is the reason I'm like this.
Well, so you get through this, and like you said, it takes you a couple months to get a comfortable rhythm. So you start making, you start making the arrests and stuff. What seemed to be the area you gravitated most towards? I mean, was it just straight patrol and you just handle whatever came along, or did you start developing, kind of like when we talked with Randy Tooman? He got to the point where this guy was good at interdiction. I mean, he does that. He knows
he's a legend. Well. He's a legend.
Yeah,
Randy is an absolute legend. He's incredible.
But same with you. Did you find that you were gravitating towards some particular type of enforcement, or were you just happy doing all the general types of enforcement?
So more so in our department, unlike Chris's department at the sheriff's office, they are their own canine division. So all they do is answer canine calls. If they want to be proactive, if they want to do some traffic stops, whatever, they can do that. But their job is just being responsive for canine calls, right? Whereas in my department, that's not the case. We are counted as patrol. So I do still have to answer calls, calls for service. If it's I do have to work accidents. If I get a DWI, we got to handle our business. So unlike Randy, who works a lot of the interstates and stuff, I would love to do interdiction. What Randy does, I absolutely love, but my department does not. It's not conducive for that, especially where we're at. And so, no, I wouldn't say that I gravitated towards one thing like interdiction or something like that. Now, I do love narcotics. I love taking narcotics and guns off the streets. Love chasing bad guys. So I guess just kind of well rounded. Whatever comes my way, I'm more than happy to take. You know, uh, sometimes calls are very sparse. So I will literally take whatever canine call comes my way. I enjoy it all. We do have some people who they only want to chase bad guys. They only want the patrol aspect of it. But I love the narcotics too. It's a hide and seek game for the dog.
When
So I love it.
when you're on shift, how many troops are out there with you?
So on night shift right now, I believe we have 16 with us. But that's not always the case where we have that many on. Now we are fortunate where we patrol. We always have Houston Police Department and the Sheriff's Office. We overlap with both of them. So, if something major does happen, we always can rely on their assistance. So, uh, yeah, but my department alone, I believe we have 16 on nights.
Is that fully staffed for you, or are you still short people?
That's fully staffed.
That's amazing. It is tough to find fully staffed departments in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, with everybody on shift, that's a different story. By the time people calling in sick or taking off, or it's like last night, there was 5 of us for our entire precinct, and
instead of 16.
Yeah. One of those.
Wow.
Well, by the time, you get everybody's days off, and then people, everybody's scheduled days off. So
on a regular night, how many are scheduled per night?
It fluctuates. On a solid night, I mean, hopefully we have, between 8 and 10. Honestly, okay. Now we have 16 slots. We have 16 people assigned to the shift, but
But that's what I mean. If you got days off, vacation, whatever else
vacation,
okay.
Yeah. So I mean, on a fully staffed, heavy day that we consider, like, oh yeah, we're gonna go run and play. We're gonna, tear it up. We might have 10.
What are your hours for midnight? When do you guys work 312s, 410s? What's the schedule like?
We work 8s, and it's 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
You work 8s. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody did that anymore.
Yeah, we still do. We work 8s.
And you said earlier it was by choice. Why are you working midnights by choice?
I love it. So I was on nights when I first got hired on. That was the shift that I got sent to. And I love it. Honestly, in my opinion, it is one of the best shifts for the dog because people are breaking into businesses. It's active. And you can get places fast. So, Houston is a very large area. And from point A to point B, in the middle of traffic, I mean, it could take you like an hour, and time is of the essence in some of these incidents that occur. And so on nights, I mean, if we're doing 120 down the freeway, there's no traffic. I mean, we're
now
getting,
when you're going 120
places.
way down the freeway, does your dog have its head out the window?
No. Honestly, he's still laying on his bed sleeping. Like, okay, well, wake me up when we get there.
Wake me when we get there. All right. So walk us through now. So you've been out on the street. We're going to talk about a couple cases here in just a little bit, but tell us about your training regimen with the dog. What does a day look like for you in terms of training? How often do you train? What things do you train on? And what makes your dog different?
So we still train every week. Every Wednesday is our training day. And so we train 8 hours a day every Wednesday. And what we're working on is narcotics. So we're putting narcotics in vehicles, throwing them out into grass, putting them in buildings, that kind of thing, school lockers, whatever it may be. So maintaining the dog's proficiency on narcotics. And then we're also doing bite work. Oh, my computer's about to update. Let me turn that off. So, we're doing bite work. So whether it be building searches, tracks, vehicle extractions, that kind of stuff. We do a lot of obedience. We do a lot of, just getting the dogs out. We'll take them around an obstacle course, or just stuff like that. We'll just just getting them out. And so every night, I'll work on his obedience, just kind of, touch it up. I'll do some door pops. I have a button on my duty belt that if I hit it, his door pops open. So I'll go, around a corner of a building, pop it and call him to me, kind of deal. It's fun for the dog. It's fun for me, but it still keeps him, kind of,
Trained. Quick question on that.
Sure.
The door pop. Does the door opening itself signal the dog that they need to spring into action, or is it the command? Is it the door pop plus the command? Because what if you're in a situation where you can't give the command?
It's the door pop. So that particular door is the passenger side. That door, especially for us, we don't. So when we're putting the dogs in, it's always on the driver's side. When the passenger side door pops, that dog knows it is time for work.
Time to go 10-8 or whatever you guys call it.
It is time for business. Yeah. Whether I have to call him or not. So I can literally, we can be sitting in the middle of a parking lot. He can be dead asleep and I can get out, whatever, leave him. Wait 20 minutes, whatever. He can be dead asleep, whatever he wants to be doing in the car at the time. The second that door pops, that dog is coming out running 100 miles an hour trying to find me. I don't even have to say a thing. He knows that when that particular door pops, it's time to eat, or it's time to protect mom, or it's time to do something.
What's the reward for your dog? Sorry.
So on narcotics, he gets a tennis ball. If we're doing like door pop drills like that, or obedience, I give him a tug, a fire hose tug.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it normal for him to, like you talk about him laying down sleeping? It seems like the other dogs I've seen will stand up and watch where you go. They want to know where you are.
So he will, up until a certain point. He's a very large dog, and I'm actually kind of grateful that he is as quiet in the car as he is, because there are some dogs who just spin and spin and spin, and that wear and tear on those hips and elbows, and they're just barking nonstop and attacking the metal inside the car. He's never been like that inside the car, so I'm very fortunate for that. But yeah, so my middle partition, I keep open. He can stand up, he can look out, and he will. I'll catch him. Like, I'll come out of the gas station and he's standing up with his head, like right above my computer, looking out the windshield, trying to see where I'm at, kind of deal.
Oh.
So yeah, he's always watching too. But don't get me wrong, when it's quiet and slow, he enjoys his cat naps.
Well, if I had a dog twirling around in my backseat barking all the time, I don't know who'd go first, him or me. So I can't take this anymore.
Right.
Man. It's like.
Right. Yeah. It's wild. So, some of these dogs, the handlers are on the radio and it's just like, hey, I'm on traffic. Ruff, 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 and you can't understand them. It's like, so I'm honestly thankful that Le Mans does not do that, because it is kind of annoying.
Speaking of dogs on the radio, we had a guy back in Salina. I will not mention his name, but we made his middle name UL because he was on a radio call one night. And this, you get a barking dog complaint at 2:00 in the morning. Nobody wants to handle that stuff. So it's like 903, go ahead. 903, woof, 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 no dog detected. I'll be back because, I'm in 10-8 again. So we started calling him UL for unable to locate dog.
That's funny.
But back to our regularly scheduled podcast. So you guys are having fun. You're doing your work and stuff. So one day a week, you guys are doing training. So let's kind of talk a little bit about how long it took before you guys, like you started developing this rhythm, but you started getting involved in stuff. So let's talk about this one case I wanted to ask you about. And I think you said it happened a couple of years ago. So it started just from a traffic stop, just from a traffic light, failure to signal.
Correct.
So we're starting to get a couple suspects here. So just so people understand too, it's not like you're nitpicking and you write a ticket for everything that goes wrong, but we use a lot of these things like tag light out, brake lights out, one brake light out, or some equipment violation, because it's a well-known fact that many criminal types don't take care of their vehicles, or they don't really care. And so having a cracked windshield or some vehicle defect is a great way to get what we call reasonable suspicion to stop a car. Now, for you untrained out there, a lot of people say, you didn't have probable cause to stop the car. No, I didn't. And you don't have to have. You have to have that to arrest. So talk about why you focus so much on traffic violations and things like that other people might call nitpicking, but they're really a good way to get involved in stuff.
So, what people don't understand or realize is that the one thing that all criminals, whether they just committed a murder, a bank robbery, they just, pushed an old lady down the stairs, whatever it may be, what is the one thing that all criminals have in common? They all have to drive. So, even if their vehicle has all of the equipment up to date, their registration's up to date, whatever, they may just so happen to forget to use their turn signal. And so part of my job in particular is trying to utilize my dog. So what that means is I am looking for things to get him into.
Hey, players, that is the end of part one with Deputy Madison Sperry and her dueling canines. In the next part, we'll get into a couple of the cases she's worked with her dogs and a very touching story at the end, so make sure you stay tuned for that in part two. In the meantime, head on over to our website, gameofcrimespodcast.com. We've got updated merch. We've got our mailing list. We've got the books that many of our guests have written. Also, we got great pictures, a lot of good stuff over there. Also, catch us on the socials at Game of Crimes on Twitter, at Game of Crimes Podcast on Facebook and the Instagram. But where you have to be, you have to be at patreon.com/Game of Crimes. We have the most fabulous content, and we're just announcing the launch of our new The Real DEA Narcos on the Real DEA Narcos Cali edition. Chris Fox and Dave Feistel talking about the takedown of the gentlemen of the Cali cartel. That series will be launching in July exclusively for Guardian of the Realm and Warden of the Throne levels, so make sure you check that out. In the meantime, stay tuned for part two, Deputy Madison Sperry and her dueling canines. And thank you once again for playing the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, the Game of Crimes.